Hey, what's going on, everybody? Elliot here from Movie Files, back again with something I've been loving doing this last month and a half or so, especially during these quarantine times, is doing these live watch-alongs. And I have a special guest with me tonight, and I'm going to be introducing him to you guys pretty soon. But before we dive into this watch-along and get everything started, if you guys are new to this channel, definitely subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss any of my content. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel, and also I really appreciate it. And also, when I bring my guest on, make sure you do the same for him. Subscribe to his channel, follow him on social media accounts, and show him some love because he has a lot of awesome content, guys. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of bring him in. I got my friend who I just met recently via Instagram, and we may have some other things in the works in the future, but I have with me tonight Joe from Guy at the Movies. How we doing, Joe?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. I love your, everything you've been doing on Instagram. I love your reviews on Instagram. I love what you're doing on your YouTube channel. So I definitely want to bring you in tonight and talk about a franchise, John Wick. And we're looking at chapter 2 because I did a poll earlier last week, had people vote between this film, the first John Wick, and the Raid films, and John Wick 2, 1. So I'm excited to rewatch this film, man. How many times have you seen this movie?
This is probably going to be my fifth, I think.
Fifth time. This will be, I think, my only like second or third time seeing this film. I was kind of late to the franchise. I'm a big action guy, but for whatever reason, I just didn't get the chance to see it at the theater. And once chapter 3 was coming out, I heard they were making it. I was like, you know what? Let me catch up with these films, and I absolutely love these movies. So with that kind of being said, man, I'm going to have you kind of introduce yourself to the audience, tell them about what your channel is about, your Instagram's about, and let them know why you're an awesome person. So go ahead and just take the stage, my friend.
Well, hey, thanks a lot for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Excited to watch John Wick 2. We'll get into some of that in a little bit about the details of this movie and what I enjoy about it. But I'm Guy at the Movies. You may have seen me around, most recently doing some quarantine conversations with some other personalities that you'll see around Instagram and YouTube. So it's been a fun way to kind of break the monotony of this, this time that we're all in. But what you can expect from my channel if you follow Guy at the Movies is you will see daily movie reviews. You'll see some fan casting, some of those live conversations like I mentioned, some watch-alongs, kind of a grab bag of things right now to keep us going through this crazy time. So, Elliot was nice enough to pop on to our conversation last week. We had a great chat, and it was really great getting to know him. And this is just a great example of one of the awesome things that he's doing. So happy to be here. Happy to chat about the movie, debate about the movie, and see where this goes.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm glad to have you on tonight because, again, I'm a big action fan, man. Yeah. I grew up in the 90s, so that was, kind of, I grew up with the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the world, Steven Seagal's, John Claude, all those legends. And, as time kind of goes by, we're in the mid-2000s. We still get action movies, but then we get the emergence of, certain slasher films, the Saws of the world. We get into the revamp of the Star Wars. And obviously, we know superhero movies have been dominating the box office this last decade. So
they take over.
They take over, man. And I love them, but every now and then you want to see a good action film. And I think what Keanu Reeves has done with this character, John Wick, and the Chad Stahelski and all the directors involved, he brought back the action film, right? Like, it's a raw, honest, badass character with some awesome assassins. We learn more about the Continental, especially in this film that we're going to start here in the big guys. We're going to start this probably in about 2 or 3 minutes or so, but just tell me, Joe, in regards to your, how did you get invited to the John Wick world and kind of, where you are with the franchise? Is it one of your favorite franchises? Kind of what's your thoughts on that, my friend?
It's really funny you say that because similar to you, I was kind of late to the game. When I saw that John Wick 3 was coming out, I wanted to check it out. I wanted to make sure I was caught up. So I kind of did a little binge watch, and then I felt like I had to go back and watch again to really appreciate. I think it's incredible. I think one of the things that we'll probably talk about a lot tonight is the direction from a former stuntman and Keanu Reeves in particular. So I think we're seeing a lot more of that. We just saw it recently with Extraction when that came out, and I think that changes the movies a little bit, the action movies, and takes them to that next level. So I enjoy it for that. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stupid action. Let's be real. But it's progressively getting more complicated, which I enjoy, but also have some thoughts on as we go along. But the second one, as I mentioned to you earlier, is one of my favorites. So we'll get to that, I'm sure. But I really enjoy especially Keanu Reeves in this one. I think what he brings to the table is a lot of fun.
And I mean, I'll say it, guys, and we'll talk about it when we get this movie started here in a couple minutes. Keanu Reeves is a great guy. He might not be the best actor. Dracula, I think that's one of the most worst performances in a while that I've seen in a very long time. But Point Break, obviously The Matrix, and Bill and Ted, and so on and so forth. He's a great guy. So I always root for Keanu Reeves, and I feel like he's now getting back into the forefront. His names have been mentioned in maybe Marvel movies at some point. He's had conversations with Kevin Feige. There's the conversations that he might enter the Fast and Furious franchise. So I'm glad that he's in the forefront. And you mentioned something about the director and how these stunt guys are coming into, not only choreographing these amazing fights and this gun fu, but they're now behind the camera making their own films, and what a difference that makes when you see that. So we're going to break all that down, guys. So what we're going to do here, I got I'm not fancy like some of my other friends on YouTube regarding their, built-in timer on the movie. So I'm just got it old school, man. I got my phone here, and we're going to get this bad boy started in about 5 seconds, guys. So if you want to go ahead, pop in your movie, get your popcorn, get your water, get whatever you need and your snacks. And we're going to start this bad boy in 5, 4, 3, 2, pressing play now. All righty. So going back to the conversation we had, Joe, you were saying binging. So you haven't seen the first two in the theater?
No, I did not see any of them in the theater, actually, even the third one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. So it was really a weekend binge, which was fun to do. I mean, the nice thing about these movies is there's such great escapism, right? Like, you know what you're getting into, it's action, it's probably, there's certain parts that aren't going to make a ton of sense, and you have to suspend belief. But it's a good thing to see. Yeah,
no, definitely. I was in the same boat. I didn't see 1 and 2 in the theater, like you said. I kind of paid catch up and watched them over a weekend, probably about 6 or 7 months before the third one came out, and I was just super hyped. I'm like, oh man, now I know what everyone's talking about. The action's off the charts, and I was really happy that I was able to see the third one in theaters because it was just a thrill ride. But we're seeing now, I mean, I love when films just kind of open. You're just in the mix, right? You don't have this slow build. It's just letting you know we're ready to get this bad boy started.
And that's what's fun about these movies. I think action movies in general that just get going and straight to the point are a lot of fun. And this one clearly does it. And that's what Keanu Reeves excels at, honestly. Think about all the movies that he's been really well regarded in when it comes to action in particular. Right. And this is what they do. They all go crazy right off the bat.
Yep. And we got some people in the chat too. Want to introduce some of our people here. Robert makes the cut. Hey, everybody. How we doing, Robert? Glad you're able to join us tonight, my friend. Welcome. We got Unyolo. What's going on, man? How we doing? Robert again says, how's everyone going? We look like we lost Joe there. We'll get him back in the chat here in a minute, guys. I got it queued up on the 4K. Awesome. Yeah, these movies too, that's another thing in regards to just not only do they make, great action sequences, but these films, the color palettes are just, the colors pop, great score. I mean, these are just really well pieced together films.
I agree. This neon color palette is actually a lot of fun. It really kind of brings you right into it.
And I love too, kind of going back to the directors of this film, that whole kind of horror movie approach where they don't get the craziest budgets, but they make do with what they have, right? And it's just they go, they shoot a lot of stuff in the camera and just the filmmaking, kind of guerrilla style filmmaking, if you want to call it that. I just love the approach that they come with this film. And as we're going to break down here in a bit, I mean, this film really kind of explores the lore of John Wick and the Continental and kind of the rules that they kind of abide by. So this is kind of a nice little story within this film. And you said, we'll get to our favorites in the franchise. Just, you were saying that, you like this one the most, right?
I do. I think this one, it really shows that they took what worked in the first one and capitalized on it. I think they had an idea of where they wanted to go with the story if they were to, get the green light on the sequel, and clearly they made the best of it.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is the actors that they have involved in these movies is really, it's a great cast.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, you got some people that we've seen in other action movies in the past, like the gentleman here. I just remember him from, seeing some of the, older Bruce Willis films, or even in Bad Boys. And you got Laurence Fishburne, which I love that they kind of are bringing some of those Matrix cast members and also crew members into the mix. I love it.
Yeah, it is great. And it's funny you mentioned that. The first time I saw this, when I saw the guy sitting there, I said, oh my God, Bad Boys.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, he's been in quite a few. I think he was even in, I think, Flash, one of the seasons of Flash or something. He pops up in like this random villains, and he's just obviously he's typecasted, but it looks like he always has a good time in these roles.
Yeah, he knows what he does well.
Mm-hmm. We got some other people here talking about the queuing it up in the 4Ks, visually stunning, which, as we talked about, yeah, the color palette is really awesome in this film.
Robert's a Fallout fan.
And we got Brandon here. I love the projector movie on the side of the building. Yeah. It's just little details like that, right? The director kind of brings in their own touch. A little foreshadowing. Yeah, and then we got YOLO. This franchise is so cool. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? We talked about at the beginning as far as just kind of the franchises and kind of we don't get as many romantic comedies or just flat out action movies. Or if we do, they find their way on Netflix or whatnot. But I was just so happy to see Keanu Reeves take this character and just kind of elevate it. I don't think there was plans to make a sequel. I don't know the behind the scenes aspect of this movie, but I don't think they knew that this film was going to be what it was now.
Well, and once we start talking about the third one a little bit, I'll definitely give you some of my thoughts on that.
For sure.
But yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think they thought it would take off. I think that Keanu Reeves was pleasantly surprised that this really kind of revived his career, which is great to see.
Yeah. Yeah, he has that kind of that second, second half of his life now. Again, he's going back to franchises that we kind of know him for. Again, we'll see him in I don't know what the deal is with Bill and Ted 3, but him going back to that franchise. Obviously, we got the Matrix 4, which I'm not gonna lie, I have such a bad taste in my mouth from the third Matrix, and I was always one of those people that saw the second one and was just like, I don't like it, but if the third one sticks a landing, maybe it'll make sense. But I just thought the third Matrix, Revelations or Revolutions or whatever it wasn't a fan. But I'm excited to see them go back to that franchise. So Keanu Reeves, he's in a strive right now. He has the momentum and finding some success.
Yeah, it's good for him. I'd argue that Bill and Ted 3 probably wouldn't be being made right now if his career didn't pick back up the way it did. Yeah. They've been talking about it for years, and it seemed like it was always just kind of on the back burner.
Yep.
But they wanted to capitalize on his, popularity right now.
Mm-hmm. That's smart. Yeah, Unyolo says, I still love the first one the best. And I mean, we can kind of talk about the franchise so far in regards to the first one. I think for me personally, the first one has probably, I don't want to say best story, but I think as far as like emotional connection to the characters and kind of that aspect of it, probably has the more stronger script. The second one kind of elevates the script in regards to building more in the mythology and, heightening up the action. I thought the third one, just from an action standpoint, was just incredible. But, Unyolo says the first one is the best one. I know you said the second one is your favorite. And for me personally, it's a toss up between this one and the third one. I love the first one again based on the story, but just from a pure action standpoint, I freaking love the third movie. And we'll probably do a watch along for that sometime in the future. But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. The third one's just so action in my opinion, man. And Halle Berry kicking butt and the dogs and all that.
She was wonderful in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another, actor who I hope kind of picks back up and gets back in the forefront.
Catwoman too.
Yeah, Catwoman too. Get her back in the suit, make an appearance. I think she's at the point in her career now where I would like to see her do things like this, but also, she's a great, dramatic actress, and I would love to see Halle Berry get back in the mix. But we see John Wick from this first scene, guys. The man has his morals. You mess with his dog, you mess with his car, it's the end for you. Those are just things you don't mess with John Wick.
It's looking really slick with that slick back hair right now. And I see someone's mentioning John Wick 4 and Matrix 4 coming out on the same day. John Wick 4 actually just got pushed back to 2022.
Yeah.
I don't know that they've moved Matrix yet.
Yeah,
I assume that will happen.
Yeah, and that was something too. Love to get your thoughts on. We didn't know this pandemic was going to hit, but in regards to if it didn't, did you think that was going to still happen? That they were going to release John Wick 4 and Matrix 4 on the same date? What did you think about that when you saw that?
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that it made for a good story and good publicity early on for both movies once they were greenlit. But, it just doesn't make sense. You don't want an actor competing against another actor. It doesn't do well for either of the studios. They both want to capitalize on his success right now and have their own weekend. So,
Exactly.
I think obviously everything's been pushed because of what we're going through right now, but I think it would have happened anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of funny. You're thinking back to what you were just saying with the he's got his morals. It's the dog, the car. It's
cold.
He has very specific items,
right? Yeah, and that's a fun thing we're gonna do later on today in this live stream, guys. We're gonna do like a John Wick versus other action heroes, and I'm very excited to kind of hear Joe's opinion on who John Wick can beat, who's gonna beat John Wick. So we're gonna do that a little bit later, kind of have a little fun game later on. But again, we're just seeing, and first off, he loves his car, but I mean, he's kind of handling things a little crazy right now. Broke his door, is dented, and this guy he's on a mission.
This whole scene kind of gives me Batman versus Superman vibes in a way. That whole scene where the Batmobile's going and suddenly rounds the corner and Superman's standing there.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of that right away. Obviously not now, but
yeah. Yeah, he's John Wick's not happy. He took his car. He's gonna kill you. That's simple and plain. Brandon says, you gotta love Common. He's one of my favorite additions. Yeah, no, Common's awesome. He's someone I'm from Chicago, so I've always been a Common fan growing up for not only his music but him kind of transitioning into film. So I do like his character, and I'm very excited to get to those fight sequences because those were pretty awesome moments. John Wick versus Common's character. On YOLO, yeah, go ahead.
Just a heads up, I'm going. It looks like my feed is going in and out, so just keep things rolling along, and I'll pop back on. But
no worries.
The world is on the internet right now, so
yeah. That's you gotta love the. Have you been noticing your internet kind of been affected by people being at home a lot now?
A little bit. It's funny. I think weekends especially, I'm noticing it more. I know we're all home all day and probably online doing work and stuff, but I don't know what's going on at night. I guess kids are screaming and playing their games and all that.
I love how he gets hit by a car and really not fazed by it.
Yeah, he is the calmest assassin I've ever met in my life.
Oh yeah. I love how they layered all the concept. Can't wait for the yeah, that's another thing too, Joe. As far as the Continental show, which I don't remember who picked it up, Showtime or one of the premium channels, but yeah, that's something that I'm a big movie guy. You're a big movie guy, but I've always been a fan of TV. And I think in the last, of course you have your Masters of the World and all those classic TV shows, but I think we're in the golden age of television in regards to you getting these big time. It was once upon a time when if you were an actor or a director and you found yourself on television, that was the end of your career. But now that's like the complete opposite. So what are your thoughts about the Continental? Is that something you're looking forward to regarding exploring these new characters, maybe opening up a new franchise and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. So I'll rope in a little bit about my John Wick 3 feedback here and my opinion on that, because I think it gets to this point a lot. I like John Wick 3 for the action. I totally agree. They once again elevated the action. They took the whole thing up a notch.
Yeah.
My problem with it is the story. You can... going back to how you said we're not sure that they really expected it to go to, make a trilogy at this point and a fourth movie come down the road.
Right.
You can tell that they're building the story as they go in a lot of ways.
That's very true.
And that is something that frustrates me because I think it's clear. That I can draw a weird connection, but here's the weird connection I'll make. If you've seen the movie Mamma Mia, and you've seen Mamma Mia 2.
Yeah.
Mamma Mia 2 completely retcons part of Mamma Mia 1 and just ignores things they said because they wanted to make a movie. And that, I think you get into some, touchy areas there. Mm-hmm. What I'm excited for the Continental show to do is to dive into some of the background and really give it the time that a series can to.
Did we lose him for a second?
I'm here.
Oh, yeah, okay. So did John Wick get you? Did he get you in the background? Who were you saying though in regards to the Continental, exploring more of these characters? Yeah.
So a TV show like that can dive into the story a little bit more and take its time, kind of explaining the intricate details.
Yeah.
Obviously with a 2 hour, 2.5. Am I losing again? You want to get it in there, but you don't have the time to spend forever explaining the background. So
right.
I do think that the overall story was done a disservice a little bit by that, but I think the Continental series will be able to kind of rope it back together.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think it's, you get a lot of these films that kind of do the whole franchise approach where it's planting seeds for the next, the future. And I think, I totally agree with you. Some of that stuff in the third one was a little bit, crazy and didn't make a lot of sense. And some of the new characters that were involved and foreign villains, you kind of roll your eyes at it, but you're just so blown away by the action, right? Just kind of forget that stuff. But no, it's and that's an interesting conversation too. I'd love to get your opinion on this, Joe, in regards to, we were talking about earlier, like Extraction, for example. I said in my review, for a Netflix film, it was fun, it was entertaining, but if it were to go to the theater, I don't know how I would feel about the film. What is your opinions on kind of that, quote unquote, it's a Netflix film, it's a straight to DVD or whatever the case may be, and it changes your mindset? How do you kind of approach films that kind of have that debate there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for an action movie in particular, I'm always going to want to see it in the theater, regardless of what kind of action movie it is. Mm-hmm. So I for one, I really enjoyed Extraction last weekend. I was pleasantly surprised. And again, maybe I lowered my expectations because Netflix movies have been kind of shoddy in the past.
Yeah.
But I am excited to see kind of where the movies now can go on Netflix and other streaming services now that they're delivering some of the higher quality. I think Extraction was a step in the right direction. I would love to have seen that in theaters because there's something with an action movie, even like the John Wick series, where you just get lost in the action. Mm-hmm. So I would argue that like John Wick 3, I probably would have liked it more if I saw it in the theaters because I wouldn't have been so focused on some of the crap,
I'm telling you, man, that was one of the most funnest theatrical experience I've had in a while. It was just a crowd. It's a certain energy, as you just mentioned, it's a certain energy in the room when you see an action film, a horror film, a comedy of that matter. It's just certain reactions that the movie gets from you. And it's definitely, I think that might have skewed my review a little bit. And I've rewatched the third one a bit and it still kind of holds for me. But obviously when you're at home, you kind of nitpick it a little bit more. But I totally agree with you in regards to theatrical experiences and how it can kind of, help or hurt your thoughts on the film. But yeah, it was a hoot, man. It was a hoot. I sound like an old man. It was such a fun time watching that film at the theater, and I'm excited to see the fourth one when we get it inevitably. We have here, I want a Equalizer 3, and I want to see John Wick versus the Equalizer. So you're talking Keanu versus Denzel. That would be a interesting matchup there, which we'll talk about our matchups a little bit later. But are you a big Equalizer fan? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, gotcha. No, I was just reading off the. No worries, man. No worries. I was just reading off the Equalizer question here. John Wick versus Equalizer. Having Keanu versus Denzel. But I was just wondering, are you a big fan of the Equalizer franchise?
Yeah, I like the Equalizer franchise. I think Denzel does pretty well in there. I will be the first to admit I'm kind of Denzel'd out. I think he's gotten to a point in his career where he keeps playing a lot of similar roles, and you know what you're getting with it. So, kind of ready for the next step there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a big Denzel fan, but I agree with you there. And I don't think I've even seen the second Equalizer. I have the movie, but I haven't watched it. Don't you love that when you have movies just sitting on your shelf and you just never open them up? So I got to check those out. Check that second one out there. But
I do love John Leguizamo being in this movie, though.
Mm-hmm. Nice little touch for sure.
Did you ever see him in The Pest?
No. Was he really great in that?
I don't know if you can say really great because it is an absolutely ridiculous movie.
The Pest? Is that the name of The Pest?
The Pest, he's like this annoying guy who gets kidnapped and taken to an island so he can be hunted.
1997, huh?
It's a comedy, but it is hilarious.
Yeah, I don't even think I've even heard of this film. I'm going to have to see if it's streaming somewhere and have some good fun with it.
It's a guilty pleasure film for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, Brandon agrees with us regarding the blockbuster and them not really knowing what they had on their hands and just kind of, not, like, oh, well, let's run into the thing. I mean, I'm sure there was and you always would think these creators, when they get into these movies that they have, ideas. If this film did this X amount of money, we can maybe explore this avenue. But I totally agree with you, Joe, in regards to some of this stuff was kind of just like, let's throw this in the mix, and this is a new thing. And I know they were talking about a spinoff after John Wick 3, the ballerina, I believe was the title that they were going by for a bit.
Say that again. I cut out once again. This is
no, you're fine. The ballerina.
evening.
Do you remember hearing about the ballerina being like a film? It was a spinoff, supposed to be like the little thread line, a little story slotted in the third one.
Yes, I do remember that was talked about for a little bit. I do think that for a little while they were talking about getting very, very big with the John Wick universe.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I think rightfully so, they pulled things back.
Yeah, I think so as well. And we'll see what happens with the fourth one. But yeah, a spinoff movie, a TV series. It's just like, you got to love these studios, man. They get so excited. Like, oh, let's do this. Let's do that. And not all of it works out. And I'll be interested too, if they do this TV show. I don't even know if they would have Keanu Reeves in the show, if he would just make a cameo, if we're talking about spinoff characters. But
I kind of assume it will follow the same kind of model that the Purge series has followed. They had characters reprise their roles a little bit here and there,
right?
And that might be the way to go, right? Keep people looking for it, keep people waiting. I don't know. I see someone mention Treadstone on USA, which is the series for the Bourne spinoff. Yeah. And I'm not sure. I doubt Matt Damon's made an appearance on that, but it seems to be a trend here with what they're doing.
So now we're just a little refresher too for you guys that are just maybe tuning in or watching on the replay. We are right at the 20-minute mark. So we're just 20 minutes in, and we're now approaching kind of our main villain of the film here, who wants John Wick to do a favor for him. Let me catch up to some of these chats here. Hotel Artemis. I did not get a chance to see Hotel Artemis on Yellow. Did you get a chance to check that out, Joe?
No, I actually have not seen that either.
Yeah, I remember what it was. I think it was like Jodie Foster and Dave Bautista and
Dave Bautista. It's got to be a classic.
And it was a couple other big names, and I think it was almost, if I'm not mistaken, kind of the trailer kind of presented it as kind of like it almost was like in the same. It wasn't in the same universe, but it almost was like kind of in the same universe with John Wick, where they had like these rules and this hospital, and you can't kill people at the hospital if you do. I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell.
Yeah. A lot of people saying it's a cool movie. I think it's available on streaming somewhere. I might have to check that out. Yeah, we talked about the John Wick 4 and all that. John Wick and John Wick 3 are better than 2.
Oof.
Sure.
United thrive. We're gonna fight.
I heard somewhere a movie Atomic Blonde takes place. Yeah, that was an interesting rumor. I heard a little bit about Atomic Blonde being in the same universe as John Wick, but I haven't seen it. And I'm not. Yeah, Atomic Blonde. What's your thoughts on Atomic Blonde, Joe? Did you get a chance to see that?
I actually have not seen it, but I will tell you that the fact that it's getting a sequel really interests me. It kind of makes me look at that film, or want to go back and look at that film, I should say. So that would be cool. I mean, I could totally see them setting that up for something down the road. It's the way of the movies right now, right? They're building universes, they're building crossovers. It really gets things going and gives them an ability to plan far into the future.
Yep. And I even, if I'm not mistaken, I think Atomic Blonde 2 is even rumored to be on Netflix, which we're talking about.
That's
some
true.
Of these movies going to the streaming platforms, which I would love. And this has nothing to do with John Wick, but it has to do with films. And the story's kind of unfolding a little bit more. But what were your initial thoughts with the whole Universal, AMC, Regal, Cineworld? What I don't want to say which side did you pick, but what were you thinking when you saw that news come up?
Yeah, I think we're in a really weird time with trying to figure out what the world in general is going to look like once some of this stuff starts getting lifted. But in terms of theaters and how we're going to get our movie content, I don't think that there's anything that can substitute the experience of going to a theater. So I think people are still going to want to go. I do think that this whole VOD argument over Trolls is really fascinating to me, just because, it did well. It's not, there's no argument there. It definitely did well, but everyone's home right now. And that was a kid-oriented movie with, parents are home trying to deal with their kids 24/7 while they may have jobs that they have to tend to. So of course they're going to rent something like that distracts their child for 2 hours. So I don't see that as a real threat. I do think that for a company like AMC, that is financially struggling and rumored to, be kicking a bucket by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
To pick a fight with a major distributor like that is probably not the strongest move for them.
Yeah.
But I've seen Regal has kind of walked that back a little bit. And I don't know. I think everyone's just really touchy right now. But I do think it was really wrong of AMC to come out and say that.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting conversation, and like you said, Regal came out the other day and kind of backtracked their comments, and I think there's two conversations to be had. Number one, I do I don't want to say applaud AMC, but I see what they were they felt hurt by those the remarks that they were going to have same day releases and VOD in the future. They never said that it was guaranteed. They just said they were going to do case by case, but. Yeah. And then I kind of did a little bit more research with the actual CEO of AMC. He has a interesting past, owning some basketball teams that weren't successful and some business decisions, but that's neither here nor there. So I think he was just kind of offended by that. Obviously, there might be a little bit of ego going on. You have everyone's kind of down and out, but Universal's like, hey guys, we're doing pretty well. We got this movie that made over $100 million. So there's that aspect of AMC. Definitely want to make sure that people know that theaters aren't going anywhere, and companies like Universal don't need to make comments like that. But again, you look at Universal, man, and I, it's the future, man. It's coming pretty soon. Streaming is not going anywhere.
No, you're right.
The conversations have been had for way before I was born. When theatrical experiences were supposed to end, when black and white TV screens hit the market, then color TV, then sporting events became a bigger and bigger thing, and theaters survived all of that. But streaming's a different beast because those things didn't have movies to compete with. Streaming services now have, as we talked about with Netflix, Extraction. You have, Martin Scorsese, who can't get his movie made from a studio, going to Netflix to make his film. So streaming is here to stay, man. And it'll be really, really interesting to see, what the landscape of the film going experience will be in 10 to 15 years. Is it only event films? Is it only the Avenger Endgame, Star Wars, DC, John Wicks, and all the indie films just hitting the streaming services? It's a fascinating conversation.
I do think that what we're in for is a change of some sort. And the reason I say that is because it's like streaming has been knocking on the door for a couple of years now. So even thinking back to the arguments over things with The Irishman and Marriage Story and like how they were going to make it in the theaters, how long they were going to be in theaters, when they could debut on Netflix. There was a huge debate between the theater chains and Netflix at that point. So now we fast forward and we're having a similar argument with VOD, and I think what you're starting to see is that the cracks are forming in that door, right? So it's only a matter of time before it gets knocked down and something has to give.
Yeah.
The thing with theaters is they don't make much money on a movie unless it stays in the theater for a lengthy period of time.
Right.
So it's in their best interest to get hits like that. If Trolls would have come out and just, dissipated away with a whimper, you wouldn't have heard this. You wouldn't have seen this argument.
Right.
But because they're saying, look, we did really well, they're upset. And I guess I understand that. But at the same time, you can't, the theater business model has been flawed for a long time. When you have to rely on concessions to fund your bottom line, you're getting into trouble anyway.
Yeah, it's a conversation that might resolve itself here shortly. We said Regal, kind of backtrack. I imagine AMC and Universal will come to some agreement, but that conversation will be brought up again in regards to what happens when AMC does go bankrupt and they can't pay their bills. Well, who's going to be knocking on the door? Theater or studios. They're going to be buying movie theaters and Disney and Warner Brothers. So it's a crazy time, and I was on a little panel the other day with a couple other YouTubers regarding this topic, and it's interesting to see. We obviously grew up with the theatrical experience, and we have our fond memories of seeing John Wick at the theater, Avengers Endgame. But there's kids that are growing up now that their theatrical experience is on their phones, is on their tablets, and things of that nature. So they're growing up without theatrical experience. They're more used to watching movies at home. So it's an interesting time, man. It really is. But I would never want, I obviously want theaters to last forever, but it might be the new Blockbuster, in 15, 20 years. But,
it's, one last thing on that. to work with these studios in some way. When you have the event movies, when you have Avengers, when you have any of the Marvel, even DC to an extent, some of the larger movies that people are waiting for, they're gonna go to the theater to see it.
Yeah.
But some of these other flash in the pan movies, like Scoob, would do well in theaters for a little while. It's a runaway hit, but it would do well because it's kid oriented,
right?
But it's in their best interest. It's in the studio's best interest to have a place to deliver their movie, and it's in the theater's best interest to have those big movies that are going to bring people in. So if that's the only place you can go to see these movies, then they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So they just that's why I say they have to play nice, right? Like AMC coming out and taking those shots is not. It's just more turmoil at a time when you have enough.
Yeah, I think people are at home, they're upset. AMC CEO wasn't happy about that, but like I said, they'll figure everything out. But this is, like I said, this won't be the last time this conversation is brought up within the foreseeable future. So going back to this movie here, Ian McShane, great actor. Did you ever watch? We ever get into what's the show he was on for a while? Deadwood.
A little. I fell off at another point. Mm-hmm. He was actually on another show that it was short lived, but I loved it.
What's that?
You have the DVD right here. I do. It was called Kings. It was on NBC.
I never heard of that.
So it's essentially like a modern day monarchy. And the problem was it had a lot of biblical undertones, and NBC shied away from that when they were marketing it.
Yeah.
They didn't want to ruffle any feathers, and they wanted people to watch, but I guess it completely just didn't catch on with anyone. But it was a phenomenal show. I think it was only like 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And Sebastian Stan's actually in it as well.
Really?
Yeah, it was a pretty good cast. It was a pretty good story.
Nice. But I mean, he's a great actor, man. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time, and like you had mentioned, his cast that they assembled for this movie has been great, and I love his character throughout this franchise as kind of the the Top Gun and the owner and the guy that runs the Continental, and that would be going back to that show conversation, maybe an episode goes into his, I don't say orders, but goes into his past, how he became the owner of the Continental and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of, that's why I just love TV. What TV can bring to you is just these, these other characters get a little bit more light to shine, which is always cool. So let's see. We got some other comments here. Talked a little bit about John Wick 3. The ending ruined it for Unyolo. Yeah, that ending, that was kind of like rolling your eyes. Like the guy just literally fell off a building and survived. But that was definitely an eye roll moment. John Wick 3 was good, but there were some parts that were the silly. The guy with the going to the desert and all that. Yeah, there's some we'll all admit there's some silly, funny things going on there, but they're just having a good time with their franchise. Saw 9 got delayed until 2020. Yeah, I saw that before we went on. May 21st, the new Chris Rock, Sam Jackson, kind of, the trailer. I grew up like obsessed over Saw. Like I used to like watch all I can admit after 4, I would say it gets crazy and just really bad writing. They just got like a bunch of terrible actors, but I was a big fan of it. So I'm excited to see what they do with this, because again, the trailer to me kind of played a little bit like it was almost, I don't say poking fun of the franchise, and it had a little bit of that sinister undertone. But are you a Saw fan? Are you looking forward to Saw 9 when we get it in 2 years?
Yeah, I'm a big Saw fan.
Next year? Yeah,
I'm a very big Saw fan. I'm very similar to you. I love the first 4, even the 5th to an extent. Mm-hmm. I like them all, honestly. I mean, you know what you're getting when you get Saw 3D, right? Like, just for shock effect there. But
right.
I'm interested to see what they do with it. I mean, I think it's a cool way to keep the story going, to keep the franchise alive. Yeah. But the trailer didn't really do it for me. I was a little disappointed. There was not much of the horror element in it, or the element. And then, of course, you get Sam Jackson with his, crazy line delivery.
Yeah.
Snakes on a plane-ish. So I don't know. I think it's kind of neat that Chris Rock came up with this idea, and out of left field. I don't know if I would have ever expected him to want to do this, but
it might surprise us all, man. I always talk about it, when I talk about Jordan Peele and John Krasinski and, some of those, even comedic actors like a Jim Carrey, and so on and so forth. Robin Williams, these days these guys make us laugh, but they had some pain. They got some stories they want to tell, and they can get to those dark places, and it'll be really interesting to see, because I think that Chris Rock, he's a co-writer of the film too, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what comes of that film. Spiral, Saw 9, and John Wick. Why I'm sad. All right, let's see. We got to catch up here with some of these last 15 years of golden age. Yeah, from Breaking. This was the conversation we had about this, to the quality of TV we gotten in the last 15 years. Are you a big Breaking Bad, Westworld fan?
I am not a huge fan of either. Westworld I fell off with. Breaking Bad I finished all the way through. Breaking Bad was good. I think the acting's incredible. The storytelling's great, but it was too slow for me in so many ways. I remember that one episode. I know it was written during one of the writer's strikes, but it was all literally about them trying to catch a fly. And I was like, what did I just watch for an hour of my life that I'm never getting back?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the Walter White and that character arc. But yeah, there were definitely some hit or miss episodes. But I've never got back into Westworld. I watched like the first 3 episodes of the show, and I got what they were going for, and I enjoyed it. The production value was really well done, and the actors, but I don't know, I couldn't get into it, which is crazy, because I don't know if you got a chance to watch FX Devs, which has some similarities to Westworld, and I really love that show, but I just couldn't get into Westworld. I know everyone raves about it, and it apparently got renewed for like up to 6 seasons or something.
Which is kind of crazy, because I feel like it was the little show that could for a little while. And each season so far has looked extremely different from the one prior. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, good for them. It's kind of cool. I think HBO was looking for another Game of Thrones to carry them forward. I don't think this is Game of Thrones by any means, but it's definitely doing well.
Yeah, this was the comment earlier you mentioned about Shredstone in regards to USA and the whole Bourne. I don't know if did that show do well? Are they renewed for another season, Shredstone?
I'm not sure. I really am not. Some of our followers probably could tell us better, but that series is kind of interesting, right? Even the movie series, I think, really kind of they tried. Yeah, I mean, I love the first 3. Don't get me wrong.
Same here, man.
I think they're some of my favorite movies. But sorry, just catching his scream. But I think that
I love a Keanu scream.
And the Bourne Legacy is not a terrible movie by any means. Jeremy Renner does a good job with it. I think what they were doing again was trying to set the wheels in motion for a possible crossover again. Which didn't happen as of yet. We got the Bourne. What was the last one?
Just Bourne.
The one where Matt Damon returned.
Yeah, just Jason Bourne. The fifth
Slipping
one.
my mind.
Jason Bourne.
Jason Bourne. Yeah. We got Jason Bourne, which was, but
yeah, I didn't even see it. Yeah, I just and like you mentioned, I was a big fan of the first 3. And poor Jeremy Renner, right? I mean, this guy was supposed to be like the franchise, pick up the baton from Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible franchise, supposed to do the same thing with Bourne, but it just doesn't work out for him. And then Hawkeye doesn't get an appearance in Infinity War, and his show is kind of up in the air. I mean, the guy just seems to just not have the best of luck.
No, it's I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's. He strikes me, I have nothing to go off of with this, but he just strikes me as one of those problematic actors. And I don't know why I have that in my head.
That kind of that vibe from him. Yeah.
Right? That he's probably a little tough to work with. I don't know why. I hope that it's wrong, but.
Yeah, you might be right. I know the whole scandal came out with him and his wife that kind of put things on hold for his Marvel show. But yeah, you sometimes get those actors that, they seem like, they might be nice, but you hear stories that they just aren't, like you said, maybe not the best to work with and stuff like that. But Brandon brings up, we were talking about a little bit about the ballerina. He thinks that it got shelved because of Black Widow movie. A lot of similarities with Natasha Romanoff, early life and training. Yeah, the Red Room. I mean, a lot of people said that, the Jennifer Lawrence film, Red Sparrow, had reminded them a little bit of that. So, I mean, I can definitely see that happening. And I think, you can still have some similar storylines, but I would still like to see what they would do with that story. But yeah, I could definitely see if Warner Brothers like, hold on, we got so many films coming out with similar storylines, people might get confused with our film and think it's attached to this universe and whatnot and so forth. But
yeah, that makes
sense in that.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, I think everyone's trying to do something similar at these points. It's just a matter of finding what differentiates you from the next thing at this time.
Yeah. And it's a little bit about that conversation we had with the theatrical conversation. I have to say Trolls 2 is hilarious and probably would make lots of money in the cinema. So the $100 million that Warner made is a big win. Yeah, I mean, it's a big win because no other movies are making that type of money right now. So, I mean, but as we kind of talked about, I mean, it makes sense that, parents at their, kids at home and they were able to stream it. So, and I think the same thing's going to happen with Scoob and all the other kid movies that might hit I'll be interested to see what Artemis Fowl does, which I thought was, and I know you did a trailer reaction for it. I thought that was they should have, in my personal opinion, they should have just already had that on Disney Plus versus I thought that film, if it would have hit the theatrical service or theaters, it would have bombed, in my personal opinion, like Wrinkle of Time bomb.
Yeah, it's funny with that too, because I think that was greenlit years ago, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's been long in the works. And when the trailer came out, it really did not make a splash at all. Yeah. I kind of forgot about it until they were like, "Oh yeah, it's getting delayed." I'm like, "Oh okay, great." So I don't know. I think actually going back to the last point with Trolls, I see Unulo said that it cost $100 million to dive on VOD, whereas in theaters things kind of slowly ramp down and then you see it leaving a few weeks later. In VOD, I think it's almost a hard stop.
Yeah, I can't think of that actor's name. He was in the Tick show and some other stuff. I like him as an actor. I can't think of his name right now though.
I'm not sure.
Let's see. And then we got some other Karen talking about After Saw 4. Yeah, it was just cash grab in my opinion. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And like you said, Joe, they definitely kind of knew what they were going for. But I think what Karen's saying, yeah, they definitely knew. Yeah. They were right up there with Paranormal Activity, where you just it was kind of money in the bank. Every Halloween you expected it, and it was just like kind of the normal thing for a while. No matter, even if the quality kind of went down, people were just like, oh, it's a Saw film coming out or Paranormal Activity coming out, and they succeeded after that, even though the quality was kind of going further and further down.
Well, and you saw that with the release schedule too, right? They were coming out every year for a little while there, so they're not putting a lot of time into production.
Yeah. And someone mentioned no confirmation for a season 2 of Treadstone. Yeah. And Jeremy Renner was great. And Wind River, yeah, that's a great. Did you get a chance to see Wind River, Joe?
Yeah.
Whew, man, that is a really, really brutal, really well acted film. Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, John Berthal was in it for short stand, but it's a really good movie, man. It's the same guy that did the Scamarcio.
Okay.
What is that guy's name? The slipping my mind. But yeah, it's a really good film. And I think it's still on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's a brutal film. It's really brutal.
I'll add that to the list.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the director's name. But yeah, I definitely recommend that. Yeah, Taylor Sheraton. Yeah, he's a great writer. And he did a really good job with that film. Definitely recommend it. Oniolo Artemis Fowl was my bet for the big. Yeah, no, it was up there with me too with biggest flop, because I thought, I don't know what Disney. Again, I know it has a big following. I know you even mentioned in your trailer reaction that you have a couple of the books. I know some people grew up with the franchise, but I just thought when I first saw that trailer, I'm like, who's excited for this? I mean, where are they going for? Like, I don't know. I was just confused by that. And I think it already had like 3 or 4 pushbacks from when, like you said, it was in production or in development for a while. And they pushed it back for quite a few years.
Well, and froze a little bit there. Yeah. So, I think one of the challenges with that too, though, is Artemis Fowl was a big book series when the books were coming out, but it's really fizzled. I couldn't even tell you if they're still releasing those books. it never got to the level that Harry Potter did. It never got to the level of like a Lord of the Rings and, the book to movie franchises that make a lot of sense and make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a stretch to begin with. And then with such a delay in between the source material and the release of the source material and the release of the film, it's just, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
Probably not a winning one.
Yeah. I saw when I saw that trailer and all that, I'm just like, this is not a smart plan by Disney at all. So it worked out for the better because I think that platform is going to serve it a lot better than it would at the theater.
Yeah. I agree with you.
So you got is it Ruby Rose, right? Is that her name?
Ruby Rose.
Fan, not a fan. Do you watch Batgirl or not Batgirl, Batwoman?
I think I watched the first 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's pretty solid. She also was in a season of Orange is the New Black on Netflix.
Yeah. Yep. That was actually the last season I watched when she kind of approached. I kind of lost track of that show, but yeah.
So I like her. I really do like her.
Yeah, she definitely kind of has that build and that look where she can play, a Batwoman. She can play an assassin. I like her as well, and I felt really bad for her when all that stuff had came out when she was cast in the role and everything. People weren't embracing her, but yeah, she seems like a pretty awesome person, and I like seeing her in roles like this because I think she's a pretty cool, badass character in a lot of her movies and films.
She plays it well. She plays it very well.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually, I think this whole scene moving forward is really fun.
Yeah. And this kind of sets the stage with, again, we know John Wick has his rules and everything, but there's certain, he plays outside the boundary sometimes. He's willing to, I know the whole plot of this with him taking on this mission that a lot of people shunned upon, but, man's got to do what we got to do.
Onyelo, yeah, she was in the Meg. I forgot about that.
I did not see the Meg actually. Was that any good?
Really?
Yeah.
So I was actually pleasantly surprised with that too. You know what you're getting with it, but I had fun with it. I mean, I think I saw it twice because I took my dad to see it one day. My dad loves movies like that, like monster movies, dumb action movies are right up his alley. Nice. So after I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, you got to see this. And apparently they're making a sequel. So.
Oh really? Yeah, I know it did really well at the box office. So I guess that really doesn't surprise me. Jason Statham kind of has a big enough name to bring enough butts in the seats.
I'm sure they'll bring someone else in, like The Rock or something.
Yeah, that would be the next crossover. John Berthal and Black Widow, please. Yeah, John Berthal, man, He's a really interesting guy to me, man. He's always everything he's in it for like 5 seconds, and he dies in like every movie you see him in. Yeah, I think he's a great actor, but I just wish he would have a vehicle that he can actually shine in. Obviously, people know him from Walking Dead and all that, but I know a lot of people are excited about, which I never have seen one single episode of Sopranos. I know people are like going bananas for this new prequel show with John Berthal and Vera Farmiga and a bunch of other great people. But did you ever get into Sopranos? And are you a big John Berthal fan?
Say that again. I'm sorry. It cut out again. Ugh.
Oh, no worries. I was just wondering, are you a big John Berthal fan? And did you ever get into Sopranos?
I was into The Sopranos, and I am a John Berthal fan. I think he deserves more than he gets in movies. But I think he also kind of plays the same character in every movie, to be honest. He has.
We're losing him again. Are you there, Joe?
I'm here. There we go. I'm trying to remember what I just watched him in recently that was really impressive. Because he was in Sicario. Here's Wind River, popping up.
Was it Peanut Butter Falcon? I think that was the last thing I saw, man.
He was in Peanut Butter Falcon. Oh, yeah. Peanut Butter Falcon. And you got me now?
Yep. There we
go. And then We Are Your Friends, actually, with Zac Efron, which is a movie that also kind of like debuted with a whimper.
That was the guy with the catfish, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I had kept from watching that just because of the bad reception it was getting. And
I heard it was like terrible, but you saying it was really good or surprisingly good?
I was shocked by it. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's again a movie about DJing, right? Like you're not getting much from it. but I just thought it was all around like a solid Saturday afternoon watch. And yeah, he's in that too. I think he plays the DJ in that.
Really? I mean, the guy's diverse.
Which is kind of funny. Like this is going to sound really kind of fan crazy of me. But when I was earlier today, I was listening to my iPad. It was on shuffle, and the soundtrack of "We Are Your Friends" came up, and I was like, "Who was that? Who was that main DJ in that?" And I couldn't remember. And of course, it comes full circle in this conversation.
Yeah. I gotta check that out, man. Because like I said, I remember you, like you said, and I'm not one of those people that always like goes by negative buzz or Rotten Tomatoes. But I didn't hear any good buzz about it. But if you're saying, it's definitely something to check out on a Saturday, I might, pop it on and give it a watch.
Look, it's not an award winner,
but
it's definitely it is what it is, and it's a fun.
Definitely. And David's in the chat from Flicks Talk. What's going on, man? Hope you're doing well, my friend. Welcome. All Oscar-winning performances. I think that was in regards to maybe the Meg, maybe possibly Ruby Rose. We talked about her. Orange is the New Black is a show that completely went off the rails. The season with Ruby Rose was the last season. Yeah, that was literally the last season I watched too, when her and Piper got together. And I heard that I think the last season. Did you keep up with Orange is the New Black?
I watched the second to last season. That was all about like I think it was one day was like spread the whole season. And that was kind of interesting. But I really, it was one of those shows that I felt like I had to force myself to watch, and I was only doing it because I had invested so much time. Yeah.
Don't you love those?
It's funny. Shows don't know when to end.
Yeah. And I always appreciate a show when it does know, a 3 seasons or a 2-season thing. I always appreciate those. But yeah. Keanu Reeves is kind of stiff when he runs. Well, I mean, he's getting up there in age. Not everyone has the Tom Cruise gene when they can do action movies in their early 60s. He's going to be, I think I read yesterday, he's going to be 60 years old when Mission Impossible 8 comes out. I don't know if he's going to jump out of everyone's talking about going to space or going to underwater in a submarine. I mean, are you a big Mission Impossible fan, Joe?
I am. I think that they've definitely continued on the right track. It's one series that hasn't really gotten stale to me. And I think he's, as crazy as Tom Cruise seems to be in real life, he still delivers on the screen. So happy to see that.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of his, man, because, regardless of, that's definitely the conversation.
I fell off that woman.
What was that?
Sorry, I was reading the tweet of the message here. Fell off of that one.
Gotcha. No, I was saying in regards to Tom Cruise, it's always that conversation, and I think of him when it's the separating the art, the artist from the art, right? But I always just appreciate Tom Cruise because he always, even if every movie doesn't completely land, I think of Oblivion and think of the Jack Reacher franchise. He always gives it 110%, right? Yeah. And you gotta applaud that. And I think someone that's kind of taken that mantle and that kind of that top head honcho leading man, because there's not a lot of movie superstars nowadays, is probably The Rock, right? I don't know if you agree with me there that he probably is the next big thing in regards to box office. People see his name and they get excited for a Rock movie.
I'd agree with that. I totally agree with that.
All right, let me catch up here. Cameron James, we're talking about, fell off with on episode 6 of Batgirl. I watch any movie with a shark in it. I mean, sharks are awesome. I'm a big Jaws fan, and I can't do the Sharknado films. I tried to watch it, but it just got too. I'm like, I'm good. The Meg was ridiculous, self-aware movie. Haha, definitely worth a watch with drinking buddies. Gotcha.
That's a spot on comment.
Every single one, even Ghost Shark. Nice. I never heard of that. That sounds like a fun time.
I wouldn't say that, but
4v Ferrari. Oh, he was. That's another film that's on my bucket list that I unfortunately missed last year. 4v Ferrari. Did you get a chance to see that last year, Joe?
I did. That's another one of those movies I was not pumped to see. The trailers really didn't do anything for me, but I was blown away when I saw it. I really enjoyed it. I think it really just well done all around. It probably deserved more accolades than it got.
Yeah, I got to check that out for sure. And we're watching now. Again, for all those that are at home, we're watching this woman just, she'll rather go out on her own terms and be taken out by John Wick himself. So again, for those that are just tuning in, we are 52 minutes into the film. And this film's going to definitely pick up here in a bit, because I'm just kind of noticing, the action really is kind of subverted a little bit in this one, right? We kind of get, as you talked about earlier, and maybe the reason why this is maybe your favorite one, we get a little bit more story, right? We built the world a little bit more, and the action's kind of put in the back a little bit. But it's definitely going to go turn up to the 10th degree here in a couple moments here.
It definitely takes its time, and I think that is benefit. And maybe that was the plan, right? Like, take the time here to kind of cement some of the story down, and then give people what they want.
Exactly. Yeah, we are friends with terrible. Yeah, David. Yeah, I know David's a DJ. Yeah, so I thought it sucked.
All right, Dave.
John Berthal, Taylor Hitch in the starring role. Yeah, I mean, Taylor Hitch is another character or actor who got the short end of the stick with whole John Carter and everything there, but I think he's starting to have a little bit of a resurgence. I know he was good. I didn't watch the second season of I didn't finish the second season of True Detective, but I heard he was good in that, and he's in the show Waco, which I know is on Netflix now, and I heard he was pretty good in that. So hopefully Taylor Hitch gets back in the mix. But yeah, they're good call, Robert. I think they're pretty similar in career paths so far. What's your thoughts on AMC banning Universal movies? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier, Cameron, in regards to AMC kind of jumping the gun with, not having any Universal movies in their film and how Universal approach. So definitely, if you get a chance, Cameron, go ahead and watch that replay. We talked about it for a little bit in regards to topics there, but yeah. Connor says, which you think will make more money, John Wick 4 or Matrix 4? Joe, I'm gonna have you take this one, man. What do you think is gonna be the box office champion when these films release?
I think John Wick 4 is going to take that, and the reason I say that is John Wick is riding a high right now. John Wick 3 did really well. The series is just really running full steam ahead. I think The Matrix has a lot to prove. There's a lot of skeptics out there. Elliot, you had mentioned yourself, like after Matrix 3, you're not really thrilled by it.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to have a tougher sell, but I think John Wick 4 is definitely going to be the one there to push it.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think it's all going to come down to that trailer, right, with Matrix 4, because everything I'm hearing so far is getting me excited. That they brought the Chad Krasinski and the people that made the first John Wick and this one. They're coming back to do the stunt work, which is great to hear. I hear that, the story so far sounds pretty interesting. I know it's been kind of under wraps, but from what I've gathered, it seems pretty interesting. And I like the cast. I love that we got the original cast coming back, and you got Yahya Abdul-Mateen II in the mix. So it's all come down to that trailer for me. But yeah, John Wick 4 is definitely, like you said, is riding the high, and the momentum is definitely in its favor. So I definitely think it's going to win the box office. But again, if that trailer knocks us off, the rails when it comes to the Matrix 4, that might change the conversation. So now, yeah, as we know, this is what people come to see John Wick films for in regards to the action, or as they call it, the gun fu, where he's just like a mechanic with the gun, right? And just has like the best hand-to-hand combat, the best weaponry. I mean, this guy is just brutal.
Shooting around all this IKEA furniture and accessories.
Exactly.
I do think with the Matrix, one of the things that's going to be really interesting to see is the advancements in the graphics and the CGI and everything.
Yeah.
It was ahead of its time when it came out, but now it's kind of entering a level playing field, and I'm hoping that they have something in mind that really takes things up a notch. But if they're just delivering some of the same, that's going to be a major hit. Definitely.
Yeah, I'll never forget. It's one of my favorite, sci-fi action films is The Matrix. I mean, that film was one of those films that comes, it's a once in a lifetime experience when you see it at the theater, which I actually saw the Matrix at the theater. I was very young when I saw it, but I definitely remember that theatrical experience. But yeah, that's one of my favorites, man. I love the conversations that the film kind of presents, the alternate, the universe that they were building and everything there. So I'm starting to get more excited for it. But yeah, that third Matrix, man, really left a bad taste in my mouth. It really did. David says, YouTube, Steven Seagal running, you'll die laughing. I have to check that out. Go down that deep rabbit hole, man. I'll tell you, I was already like a YouTube, like I'll get into this mode where I'm like, oh, what's the name of that song? What's the name of the song? And I'm 4 hours later, I'm still on YouTube. But during this quarantine, man, I'm watching so many random stuff.
I'm with you there.
on the YouTube, so I'll have to add that to my list. Steven Seagal running. I think I want to take my own self out as well as John Wick was standing in front of me. Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's probably the best route because he'll take you out pretty quickly, and it might not be the most fun way. I like the action being on the backseat of the story in the first little bit. Yeah, no, I think that's a smart thing that they did there, Connor, just kind of building the story, building the building blocks for this universe, and then ratcheting up the action the second half, which I think was smart on their part. Alrighty, so Taylor never getting a starring role. Yeah, no, I know what you meant, Robert. I know what you meant there, my friend.
And Taylor is actually looking pretty weathered. I don't know if you saw 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman.
No, I missed it. Yeah, how was he in that?
So Chadwick Boseman, I enjoy. I think I didn't really care for the movie. You know, you kind of got a hint that there wasn't anything great about it when it was delayed the way it was. But it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't my favorite. Taylor Kitsch, I finally read that he was in it, and I was like, which one is he? Because he looks weathered as hell. Oh, my God. But once again, just a supporting role, not really taking the lead in anything. And that's got to be tough on a guy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he's one of those actors, right? I think of him. I think of Sam Worthington, where Hollywood tries to push them on you, you know. What was the one guy's name? Courtney, what is his name? The guy that was in Boomerang and Suicide Squad, and he was in
Jai Courtney.
Jai Courtney, yeah. Those are like guys that Hollywood just try to force you to like this is your new star, and it really kind of hurt their careers. So, but yeah, hopefully, you know, Taylor Hitch kind of gets back in the forefront because I think he, like I said, from what I saw from the second season of True Detectives, he was bringing some layers I've never really seen from him as an actor.
I do like Sam Worthington too. I would like to see him, you know, take some steps forward. I think we're probably going to see a lot more of him with the Avatar sequels. Obviously,
yeah, man. Which is, man, that we talk about James Cameron here, man. He's the guy that people kind of sleep on him, and then you know he comes back every 15 years and makes the world's biggest movie. Are you excited for the Avatar sequels? What's your thoughts?
You know, I am. I really do love the first one. I know a lot of people think it's overrated, but I think for the time it came out, it was definitely much needed at the time. It was a great escape. It was a great fantasy world to be in.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to explore. I think James Cameron is a master storyteller.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of in a nerdy way, I was down in Disney World a few months ago. We did the Avatar ride, and I know that they were. I read that they were hinting towards some things in that ride, and the sequel's supposed to follow or explore the water part of the planet a little bit more. And you definitely see some of that in the ride, and it just kind of got me reinvigorated for it.
Nice.
I think there's a lot they can do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because as you just mentioned, James Cameron is, you know, he doesn't get it. I don't think he gets enough credit for his films. You know, one of my favorite action movies of all time is T2, and I love what he does with, Titanic and obviously all that stuff. But yeah, it's Avatar in 2009. I haven't watched it in a while. I don't know if it aged well, if it was one of those movies that kind of was, for its time. But I'm looking forward to see what he does because, as you had mentioned, his technology, and he always tries to push the medium forward when it comes to technology. So it'll be really interesting to see. And is that next year or the year after?
I feel like it's 2022.
2022, yeah. Which at this point it might be 2023. With everything going on.
I just think with him, exactly what you said. He pushes technology, he pushes storytelling, but he also doesn't rush things. And I think that's what's great with him. You're right. We're looking at what it will be 13 years later that we get a sequel.
Right. Brandon says John Wick 4 will crush the box office. When that movie ended, I was ready to roll. Is the next one the cast of Ian McShane and Lance Renner continues to pay dividends with it. No, those again we talked about up top. They always kind of bring a fun cast together, and they got some really good actors that can play these roles. So definitely looking forward to see what they do. Yeah, now we're seeing John Wick is now being chased by Common, who's just ready to take him out after killing his boss there.
Yeah, this is one of the best fight scenes. I would argue.
I agree. Just brutal and just two assassins who just want to take each other out.
making me feel winded just watching it.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing I love about the way they kind of choreograph their action. It's just like it feels real and honest, and you see people breathing kind of heavy. And one of I think of John Wick 3 when he's fighting the guys from the Raid series, which is one of my all-time favorite franchises when it comes to action. But yeah, I just love that. Yeah, these guys are just like, I mean, I love that.
You know, going back to it a little bit though, Extraction. That's something I enjoyed there too. Yeah, it took its time with like, all right, like let me bandage myself up, or
I
just got hit by a car. Let me pull myself together a little bit.
One of the things that I mentioned it that much so in my review regarding Extraction, the hand-to-hand combat, was they actually, when Chris Hemsworth, a 6'4", 6'5", 250-pound man, kicks you or punches you, you felt that. Like I even said so much so that I felt his impact in that film on a visceral level more than I did with Thor. It's like if Thor punches a human being, their heads going off their shoulders. But I felt the brutality was so like, this is what happens when a guy of this size kicks you. You're gonna go 10 feet that way, and it was just I love the action and the realism to the much extent as possible in that film with the hand-to-hand combat.
Without getting into the spoilers, are we getting an Extraction too?
Man, that ending, and that was something I'm going to revisit Extraction because that was something that I was like, when I reviewed it, I was like, when films do that, when they kind of leave it up like, is it this, is it that? I think I read the other day that Sam Hargrove, the director, said that if they can come up with a clever enough story, and if the audience wants a sequel, we'll get one, which is another word of if it makes enough money, we'll do it. Right. But in regards to do I want to see one, I don't know, man. I was very pleasantly surprised by that film, and I know it was based on like a small or short comic book run from Joe Russo or some other writers. So I don't even know if it would be based on another run that they did, or if it would just be a completely original IP. But what about you?
There we go.
Would you be interested in the in another one, Extraction 2?
Another Extraction. Sorry, I cut out once again.
No.
I think I would be. I mean, I would be for the action. I wouldn't be for the story. I think the same way that I enjoyed the John Wick series is probably how I'll enjoy Extraction.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, but it's fun, right? Like there's a helicopter, and you know that someone has a rocket launcher, and you're just ready to see what's about to happen. Like
exactly.
That's fun. I do know that they, a lot of the punditry out there is saying that it seems like a franchise has been set up should Netflix want to move forward with it. So I don't know. It would be cool to see. I mean, it's a nice escape. It's nice to see it on Netflix. I think it works for them. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, from a creative standpoint, I would be interested to see where they would take the story next, prequel route or a continuation potentially. And because one of the things that I actually was more fascinated with in that movie was what was the character's name? Saja, I think his name was Saja, the one that was kind of the business partner and kind of had to babysit the kid. I wish that Chris Hemsworth had gotten his story because I found that to be a little bit more compelling regarding the whole son, like he's getting this kid because he wants to save his family versus kind of the mercenary route that Tyler Rake's character went, where it was just like kind of he's looking to, I don't know. I personally was more emotionally connected to the Saja character than I was Chris Hemsworth.
That makes sense. I mean, and I think that's why it actually speaks to the success of the movie and why we probably will see more of it is because they built more than just, muscular Chris Hemsworth taking his shirt off 20 minutes in.
Definitely.
They actually put more to it.
Definitely. And then we got some other. It was such a good theater experience seeing John Wick 3. Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. Yeah, it was a thrill ride, man. Like it was like going on a roller coaster. It was just such a fun time. Best part of the movie right here, yeah, as you just talked about with John Wick and Common fighting down the stairs and Roland continuing to fight in the Continental. Yeah, it's a fun moment because again, these are just two badass guys. They know how to take take out the person that they're contract to kill, but when it comes to them two, they're just going right at it. And I love this character. Morgan in the chat, what's going on, Morgan? Thor and Morgan popped by to say hi. I appreciate it, guys. Dolby Cinema is awesome. Way to see John Wick 3. Yeah, I actually saw it in IMAX and in Adobe IMAX, and it was awesome, man.
That's awesome.
Morgan with the super chat. Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate the support. Again, guys, this is why I do it, for you guys. I love the community that we're building so far. I thank you for the support, Morgan. And again, guys, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, like, share, make sure you leave your questions and comments in the chat. We do have super chats, we do have Streamlabs up and going, so I appreciate the support, guys. I really do. And like I said up top too, guys, make sure, if you haven't already, click that link to Joe's links to his Instagram, his YouTube, and his website. He has a lot of great content, guys. As you can see, the guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to films, and he has a really good taste in film. So definitely, like I said, give him some support and show him some love. Really appreciate it, guys.
I think Dave might argue with me on that argue with you on that.
We are friends comment there. Bro, this scene is so cool. Yeah, that scene was awesome. I love that she's a mute too. Ruby Rose character. I love that kind of back and forth of them throughout the film.
It is really a nice touch.
Yeah. You're awesome, Morgan. Yeah, yes, you are, Morgan. You are awesome. All of you guys are awesome. Again, I can't thank you guys enough for the continued support. Also, we saw it in IMAX. Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a theatrical experience. Brandon says Chris Hemsworth is a great, obvious pure action roles like Extraction, but personally, I think his talent is even greater when he's working in Taika Waititi world. Yeah, I mean, and that was something that Extraction didn't really play on, which is his comedic timing. Man, that guy is hilarious. I think of movies like what was the Vacation film with Anne Helms and Christina Applegate. I thought he was funny, and that the movie was trash in my opinion, but he was hilarious. I thought Ghostbusters 2016 was okay, but I thought that he was the best part of the film. So I think he's hilarious, man. But yeah, he's a great talent. And I love him and Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. I know some people. I would love to get your thoughts on this, Joe, in regards to your thoughts on Taika Waititi, Thor Ragnarok. Did you like the comedy? Do you like his sensibilities?
Look, I am someone that will defend the Thor series in and of itself. I love the first Thor. The second Thor was obviously not great. But I still think the character is compelling, and I love what Taika Waititi did with him in Thor Ragnarok. It's quite possibly, I think it's my favorite Marvel movie, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. It's just a pleasure to watch every time. It really holds up on every rewatch. The villain's incredible. All in all, it's just a solid movie. I think the point that Brandon's making is very true, but I would also argue that Taika does that with people. He brings out the best in them, regardless of what movie it is.
Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit last year was, I know it was a little controversial leading into it, but I think after you see it, you see that it's not totally controversial. But it's just a solid movie, and Scarlett Johansson is given a lot of room to play, and the children in it are incredible. So there's I think he's going to be the director we're talking about for a long time moving forward.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. I think, like you said, what he did with Thor, kind of and I like the first Thor. The second Thor has its ups and its downs, but I think what they did with the third Thor was excellent to kind of give him this comedic touch and give him a little bit more life and kind of, make that window available for him to kind of enter the Guardians universe. But yeah, Taika's a great director, man. I've seen most of his films. Jojo Rabbit was one of my favorite films of last year. The Hunt of the Wilder People I thought was great, and so on and so forth. He's a great director, and I couldn't agree with you more. He seems to be the hot name out there, right, in the Star Wars universe. Alita. I mean, there's just so much content that people want his hands on, and I welcome it because I think he's a great director, and he's a pretty funny guy too, so that helps.
That's very true. I would love to see him get a Star Wars property to play with in the movies. I think that would be incredible. I know it's been rumored here and there.
Yeah, no, that would be cool because I know. Did you get a chance to watch The Mandalorian and the episodes he directed?
Yes, I did. And he's once again, you can tell when it's his touch on it. He's just
he has that magic. That's for sure. Yeah, Chris. That's a film that doesn't get enough praise. Rush was a really good film. I thought him and I can't think of the guy's name. Daniel slipping my mind right now, but yeah, I thought that movie was really good.
Didn't catch that one, but that's actually been on my list.
Yeah, man. Really good film. Was that Ron?
Danny Grohl is who we're referring to.
Yeah. And was that a Ron? I'm slipping on the director's name right now. Ron Howard. Yeah. That was a really good film, man. Really, really good drama.
Check that out. I like Chris Hemsworth a lot. I think he's a solid actor.
Did you see 12 Strong? Did you get a chance to see that in 2018 when it came out?
I did see 12 Strong, actually. Yeah.
That was another solid movie that didn't get a lot of attention. Taika is a genius. What We Do in the Shadows. That's one on my list that I still need to see. What We Do in the Shadows. I heard that's hilarious. Yeah. The Boy and The Hunt for the Wilder People are masterpieces. Yeah, I need to see The Boy and The Shadows are like two on my list. I still need to check out from Taika.
Boy is one of his older ones, is it not?
Yeah, I think it might be one of his. Was it his first film? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He wants Flash Gordon. Of course he does. Sorry, I'm reading the comments too.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, no, that would be crazy. Can't wait to see his Flash Gordon. Yeah. I thought wasn't Matthew Vaughn attached to Flash Gordon for a little bit? And I don't know if things worked out, but they're really trying to get that Flash Gordon franchise up for the longest. Him and He-Man. He-Man and Flash Gordon are like the two properties that they're trying to get into the forefront, especially after Thor Ragnarok and Guardian. They're trying to get that flavor to those films.
Yeah. Everyone's just trying to find that next franchise.
Exactly, man.
Guys, for those of you watching, this is what Elliot had me do before we jumped on tonight, by the way.
Had to do it. That's what you got to do to get on these streams. Got to draw some blood. All right, so we're actually going to play a little game here in a little bit. I'm going to bring up this John Wick versus some other action heroes, but I'm going to be a terrible host right now because I actually have to run to the restroom. I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back.
So, guys, feel free to hit me with any questions you may have. We'll chat. Happy to be here. Glad to join in for this watch. As I mentioned, John Wick 2 is one of my favorites of the series. It is my favorite of the series, I should say. So we are really getting into the thick of things now. Ian McShane is just solid actor all around. Probably would creep me out if I saw him in person, to be honest, because I think he just carries that air around him. And we're actually getting into one of the cooler scenes of this movie as well. The set design on this is just something that I think is, above anything that I've seen in a long time. Yeah, this is really cool how they kind of splice this together too with everyone after them. Where do you think that John Wick 4 could go? I mentioned earlier that I think that the third one is kind of frustrating in some ways. Welcome back. I think the third one is kind of frustrating in some ways because I think they're creating the story as they go, or like it was kind of they're piecing so much together. But I'm interested to see where the fourth one is going to go because they don't want to end with a fourth one.
Yeah, definitely. And I love this moment too. You get all these different assassins coming after him, which I thought was cool. It just kind of shows you again the world building that is just like every corner you go, you can't be safe.
And we're back to the set design as well, just being impeccable.
And again, for those that are at home, we're right at the hour 16-minute mark where every assassin in the world is going for John Wick.
In an Apple store.
Elliot, have you see What They Do in the Shadows, and don't forget about the TV show as well. Yeah, like I said, What We Do in the Shadows is on my watch list for the film and the TV show, which I heard is excellent on FX. Definitely got to give those a watch, especially with so much time on my hands nowadays. It's on his IMDb page as his next movie. Oh, okay. I did not know that. I didn't know he was attached to Flash Gordon. I thought he was just like a fan or YOLO being hopeful, but yeah, I didn't know that. He-Man is being done by the creepiest director ever. Who is that? Who's that director? For He-Man, I'm not sure. What do you have to do before the live stream again? You just said, Elliot, may you do something and you didn't catch it. Oh, the blood thing with the if you give them the blood, they're protected and all that stuff. Yeah, it's like a blood sacrifice. So yeah.
That was a joke, Brandon. There was no blood.
No blood being drawn. All right, guys. So we're getting into the thick of things in this film, and I want to play a couple games with Joe and also get you guys in the mix in this game here. So we all know John Wick's a badass, and we know that he's just kind of the most badass assassin that we've seen in a very long time. So I want to know what Joe, and again, guys, comment in the chat here. Let me know who you guys would think will win these battles. So I got a little game I'm whipped up here, and it is called simply Who Wins. So I'm going to pull this up here in a bit, guys, and I want to get you guys' thoughts, and I want to get Joe's thoughts on some of these famous, iconic characters and who would win in a death battle royale, battle to the Beth type of style. So bring it up here. First one on the list, and by the way, guys, this is not, I didn't make this. This is from Screen Rant, as you can see here. We got John Wick versus Sarah Connor. Who do you got, Joe?
That's totally John Wick. That's hands down. Yeah, I mean, Sarah Connor is obviously she's stuck around for a while, and she's weathered multiple of the same storm, I'd say. This is actually one of my favorite scenes to cut over.
Oh, I love this. It's like a casual,
just shooting over people. But you know, at the end of the day, I think John Wick's got the moves. He's got the arsenal, and you know, no matter what witty comments Sarah Connor wants to come up with, she's not going to take him down.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm a big Sarah Connor fan. I think she's an awesome, character, and obviously from the first. Oh, that was brutal. From the first, seeing her character from Terminator 1 and 2 was a great character arc, and she's such a badass. And I think that the third one, or not the third one, but the sequel and the race and all the other ones, they kind of made her a badass versus her actually being a badass. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Sarah Connor, but yeah, I agree with you. I got John Wick for the W there. So scrolling down a little bit, and this is kind of in the DC extended universe, Deadshot versus Deadpool. Joe, who do you got winning this battle?
Once again, it's got to be John Wick.
John Wick?
Yeah, I mean, Deadshot's good with what he has, right? But he's not as talented with, again, the arsenal that John Wick has. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't even know that I would. I'm surprised that Deadshot's in the top 10 here. Oh, he's
top 10. Yeah, I think it was just more. They probably put him on a list just because of the whole gun fu aspect. That he's a marksman, and if he has a hit for John Wick, it's probably done for John Wick. If it was a matter of like a hitman type situation, but I think hand-to-hand combat, and I'm familiar with Deadshot enough in the comics. He can handle himself in a fight, but I don't think he can go one-on-one with John Wick in a hand-to-hand combat. But that'll be an interesting fight. But I got John Wick for the W as well. Going back to the Sarah Connor one, I'm just reading some of the comments here. David S. Sawyer was the one that they were talking about earlier for He-Man, which I don't know if that will work.
He gets a lot of work because of the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't seem like he hasn't really got any of his he's been attached to a lot of projects in the last few years, and he seems to kind of get left on the bench there. A lot of people also, we got YOLO's picking Sarah. So Sarah Connor, someone picked John Connor. Yeah, that would be an interesting fight. She survived the Terminator. That's true. That is true on YOLO. I mean, John Wick's a badass, but he's not a T-8000. He's not a Terminator, but I mean, I think I would still get John Wick in that fight, though. But I know Sarah Connor will put up a good fight. John Wick wouldn't hesitate to blow away Miles Day. Yeah, that is true. That is true. What do we have here? But after John Wick 3 last scene, he might be the That is very true. He can fall off a building and survive. John Wick can beat Deadpool. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that there. So number 8 here, we have, as this kind of loads up, Brian Mills from the Taken trilogy. He has a set of skills that he can use. So who do you have winning this battle here?
Oh, geez, that's an interesting. I think that this is definitely the most even battle that we've had yet. But just pure experience from what I've seen in the films. So, that's what we're going off of here.
Correct.
It's got to be John Wick again.
John Wick?
Yeah, I really do think so. I think Liam Neeson and his character in Taken will definitely put up a great fight. and I think that will be really the only battle of like an entire John Wick Brian Mills movie, right? Like it's going to be them going back and forth trying to find one another. But
right. I think I agree with that. I mean, I know he has a certain sort of skills, but I don't know if he can go toe to toe. I mean, this is almost like if you imagine John Wick, this is like his maybe even someone that he looked up to in this whole. Just imagining if they were in the same universe, they might have crossed paths before. But I think John Wick would probably handle him a little bit quicker to the, quicker in to the punch. He's a little bit younger. He doesn't really have much to live for. We all know that, John Wick might take out his daughter, might kidnap his daughter. Hurt him where it hits. It hits him where it hurts. So I think I have to go with John Wick for this one. But this, like you said, I think this would probably be the closest battle so far because they are both assassins and they both can kind of handle themselves pretty well. But got John Wick.
And just an RIP comment real quick.
What was that? All right, so this one here, Natasha Romanoff versus John Wick. We kind of talked about the ballerina series spinoff, but now an Avenger. We're talking about an Avenger, guys, versus John Wick. This is interesting. What do you got winning this one, Joe?
Not to stay consistent, but John Wick once again.
You think John Wick is going to take out an Avenger?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so let me put it this way. We have yet to see what she can do on her own. I think that's one thing that in all of these is going to be really granted the Liam Neeson character in the Taken series is acting on his own too. But, we've only seen Natasha Romanoff with other people. And it really looks like we're about to see that as well in Black Widow with her getting her quote unquote family together. But it's got to be John Wick here because John Wick is he's by himself. He's, really got no attachments other than his dog in his car. I think he takes it.
I think I got to go with you again too, my friend. I think Natasha Romanoff. We've seen her, as co-star in the Winter Soldier, co-star in the Avenger, but not her own film. Really see what she can do on her own. Even in her future film, I mean, she still is going to have the help of her sister, played by Florence Pugh, and her quote unquote mom, Rachel Weisz, and David Harper. But what can she do? Can she get this brutal? Can she do the things that John Wick do in regards to, she's a quote unquote good guy. I would go as far as saying that John Wick can maybe be looked at in the light of as an anti-hero, right? Because if you give him enough money, he'll take out the person, so, and that's kind of some villainous kind of dead shot type of character there. But yeah, I got to go with John Wick with this one, even though I love Natasha. And if it wasn't for her, the Avengers wouldn't have won Endgame, in regards to what she did. But I think John Wick's wins this battle.
It's a moot point because she's dead anyway. So
exactly.
No. But I will say that on the topic of the Black Widow, I am really excited for that movie. I know that a lot of fanboys online have kind of not been really pumped about it, but I don't think that Marvel would have started the next phase with the Black Widow movie if it wasn't going to have a big impact on how they're moving forward. So I'm excited that she's getting her shot at a lead, which I think was a long time coming, and it should be pretty solid to see what she does with the cast around her.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. I've been saying that for a long time. Yes, everyone wanted her to get a film probably in phase 2, but that didn't happen. But I couldn't agree with you more, man. Kevin Feige has been at this long enough that he wouldn't just be like, let's just throw her here. There's a reason why she's launching this new phase and why they're bringing her to the forefront. And I'm really excited to see. I hope that, everything works out for November's release date. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Out of the slate of films, it's probably like one of my least favorite to look forward to in regards to anticipation. I'm excited for Thor 4 and Black Panther 2. And Doctor Strange too, but I'm really looking forward to see what they do with Natasha in her next film. Before we go to this big one here, it's not versus The Rock, which I would be interested to fight, but it's more Dom Toretto, who's a Terminator within himself, right? But going back to some of these comments, they were talking about Brian. Have you not seen Taken 3? Yeah, he did some pretty crazy stuff. He got a good amount of people in those scenes in that movie. John Wick again. Connor says, I would love to see more of the ballerina story. Can't wait for that. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Unless Natasha can sing. That is funny. Yeah, that's a good point there, Yolo. Yeah, that would be an unfair advantage. She got the Hulk involved. But our next battle here is, again, not The Rock, who, again, I think would be an interesting fight, especially, I talked about a little bit earlier that there was rumors that the big bat behind Hobbs and Shaw was potentially Keanu Reeves, and they want to maybe get him as the villain for the next Hobbs and Shaw film. But this one is Dom Toretto versus John Wick, which I think this might be an easy win here. But I would love to know your thoughts on. I mean, Dom's to give him some credit. I don't know if you guys remember in the last Fast and Furious trailer, this man caught a car. I'll just say that.
John Wick just got slammed by a car and popped right back up and is killing people. So it's obviously John Wick here. Next question. No kidding.
No, it's an easy one here. Yeah, Dom Toretto, he can catch a car, he can catch people with cars, but I mean, if it comes to it, he's not stopping a bullet, and I think John Wick would take him out pretty easily. Even though I like Dom, and it's all about family, but you don't got your family in this matchup, man. So yeah, I got John Wick for this one too.
Well, his brother is coming into the picture, and
yeah, John Cena himself. Oh, this is a fun one here. This is a fun one here. I think now we're in the top 5 now. This is a good one. We got John Wick versus Jason Bourne, the man that can't remember his first or last name, but he knows how to shoot a gun.
Yeah, I go Jason Bourne here.
Okay.
Switching it up a bit. I think you have a guy that has learned to live under the radar the way that he has. He is a man of many different names, getting himself around the world easily. Doesn't have to rely on a place to call home, i.e. the Continental. Doesn't have to have a home base. It's not like Tag.
True.
I think that he is someone that bounces back, and regardless of what's thrown at him, I think that would be a wild hand-to-hand combat.
Oh yeah, I would love to see that. You talk about crossovers, though. That would be a great crossover to see John Wick versus, or not even necessarily a versus, but maybe teaming up. But they would have to fight each other just because you have to. We can get those type of people on the screen, but that would be great. And I don't want to also. This has been a fun game, and also for those that are just tuning in, we're almost an hour and a half into the film. I don't want to overlook the reunion that we got with John Wick and Laurence Fishburne's character, because this is their first time being reunited since the Matrix franchise, and I would love to see Carrie Moss make an appearance in maybe a John Wick 4 and just really bring everyone into the Matrix universe, into this world, because I love the memes that John Wick is just essentially Neo just going to another simulation or to another, that's Neo there. So I love Laurence Fishburne. I've been a fan of his for as long as I can remember. So I was so happy to see him make an appearance in the John Wick universe. What was your thoughts on Mr. Fishburne and making an appearance in the John Wick franchise? There's
something about his character in any property that he's in that it's just, he really grounds whatever film he's in. I think it's just his personality and the way that he delivers things. But, you talk about diverse. I mean, The Matrix, John Wick, he's on Blackish on ABC, the TV show. Just everything that he does he's a welcome face. So I think that I think he also has a lot of credibility. So I love seeing movies really kind of pick up on these actors like Ian McShane and, Laurence Fishburne that really lend a lot of credibility to what they're doing.
I agree. He's, like you say, he brings such a kind of everyman's approach to certain films, and he can do the comedy, he can do the action. Obviously, he can do a little bit of everything. So I'm a big fan of his, and I'm excited to see what him and John Wick do after they team up after John Wick 3. Yeah, I love this moment here because it kind of, if I'm not mistaken, again, going back to the Matrix, this is kind of maybe a little callback line. Give this man a gun, and wasn't there a line in the Matrix like, I need a gun or something like that? So I thought that was
something similar. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you're right.
Love it, love it. So let's see what the chat's here is saying. Karen's saying Vin wins. I'm so sick of The Rock. Okay, Vin wins. Well, was she referring to The Rock versus Vin Diesel or Vin Diesel beating John Wick? Let me know, Karen. Let me know. On YOLO, please. John Wick, Don. Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't have his family, I don't know if John Wick wouldn't be able to take him out in less than like a couple minutes. The Rock wins, Connor says. Yeah, The Rock beats everyone, right? I mean, this guy is unbeatable. He's a superhero in all his movies. Dom, come on. John Wick can even outdrive Dom. He would beat him in his sleep. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Somebody get this man a gun. Yeah, that's a great line there. Great line. So we just we switched it up here. I think, and I'm gonna agree with you. I think Jason Bourne, man. I'm a big Matt Damon fan. I think he has some skills and can go toe to toe with John Wick, and he can drive a car. He can. I mean, he does. He's essentially his own version of John Wick in his own franchise, and he's taken out a good deal of assassin in his own franchise. So I'm going with Matt Damon in this one too. But I wouldn't be. It would be a really really toe to toe kind of last minute, last resort type of like a pencil has to come into the mix or something, you know, where they just find a weapon and take the next person out. But it'll be a good battle.
That would be a great addition to the Bourne franchise if they have to bring John Wick in as a to take him out.
That would be such a. You hear that, movie studios? Joe got some ideas for you. Greenlight it. So scrolling down. Okay, number 4. Could James Bond, the original James Bond? I don't know about the original guys. I'm going to mix this up a little bit. I'm just going to say, because I think he's more on the visceral level, I'll say Daniel Craig's James Bond versus John Wick. Who you got, Joe?
Oof. Who do I have here? I have James Bond.
James Bond, Daniel Craig.
That's a lie. I have John Wick.
Okay, gotcha.
And the reason I have John Wick is, James Bond is great for what he is. He's not as violent and crazy as John Wick has to get. Mm-hmm. Does he know his way around a gun? Sure. Does he have a lot of cool toys that help him through things? Yeah. But with the way that John Wick is battling through a nonstop attack from all sides, I just think John Wick's the guy. I think he's more talented in that respect.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I haven't seen all the James Bond films. I've seen all the the Timothy Daltons and the Sean Connerys of the world. But I mean, me personally, Daniel Craig is my favorite Bond. But I think John Wick would take him out. It would be just like the Jason Bourne conversation. It would go toe to toe for a while, but I think John Wick would ultimately come out on the win just because he's a little bit more brutal and would do whatever it takes to get the W, which is his life. And someone had mentioned that line, guns, lots of guns was the major line. Yeah, there it was. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. All righty. So number 3, who do they have on their list? Oh no. John Rambo, Sylvester Stallone, one of the original action stars back in his heyday, and even now
freezing up again.
Did it freeze?
There we go. Okay,
here we go. So John Rambo versus John Wick.
Oh man, I want to hear your thoughts first on this one.
John Rambo, man. I guess it depends on what the situation is. What are the tools at their disposal? Hand-to-hand combat. I mean, John Rambo, ripped a guy's throat out in one of the John Wick or one of the John Rambo films. So he can get brutal. He can get dirty like John Wick. When it comes to the gun fu aspect, I think John Wick can handle a gun a little bit more precisely than he can. So I think it just boils down to brute force, man. I think John Rambo he's willing to take whatever it takes to kill someone. So I think I might go with John Rambo on this one.
See, I think I have to go with Wick again.
Wick again?
I'm like sticking with him all night. But the reason I say that is I think he really is he's more nimble, right? I think that as we're watching the scene that's playing out in front of us, he's flipping all over the place, rolling on the floor.
Right.
Pulling people over. I think he's more resourceful. I think he is. I think they're both ruthless. I think they're both going to do anything it takes to win. But I think when it comes to working around Rambo, you're going to see John Wick run circles around him.
Gotcha. No, I respect that for sure. But yeah, I mean, those movies, man. Those you talk about absurd. All over the top. I didn't get a chance to see what was it, Last Blood? Yeah. Was that the last one? Yeah, I didn't get the chance to see that, but I heard that a lot of people kind of liked the final act. I don't know how much people like the film as a whole, but we were talking about Tom Cruise earlier. I mean, that man still is doing action in his he's got to be in his 70s, right?
Got to be up there. Right, I mean, and he's doing those what's that other series he has with like all the other
the Expendables. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys. I don't know what they are just built to last, I guess, in regards to just the pure torture they put their bodies through with those films.
That's insane.
This is a fun one here. And we were talking about this guy earlier. He can't seem to be beaten by age. Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt from the Mission Impossible films. We all know he doesn't get as brutal as John Wick, but I mean, the guy, can jump out of a plane. He can jump out of a moving car and not get affected by that. This is an interesting here. This is an interesting one for me. Who do you got winning this battle?
Well, I mean, maybe age can't beat.
Yeah,
haircut is really like doing a number on him. Jesus. Yeah. I don't know. I think I would split it into two, right? I would say first trilogy of Mission Impossible, it would definitely be John Wick.
Yeah.
These days, I think Ethan Hunt might have the upper hand on him. I just think that he's seen more. And it's not just all about the gunfighting at the end of the day, but it's about what you can do with what you have in front of you, and having the brains there too. It's not to say that John Wick isn't smart, but I don't think John Wick in a position where he has to, navigate like all of the major things that Ethan Hunt has.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, as you mentioned here, this is, a great action sequence that we're watching now in the third act. But Ethan Hunt, man, he just finds a way. If there's a little bit of hope there, he's going to figure it out. I mean, he might even pull a face-off move on John Wick where you think, he'll put a dog hat on or put John Wick's wife on as a mask and distract him for a second and go for the kill. I mean, Ethan Hunt is very resourceful. And I think he might win that one too. But if it came down to, just a pure no guns, no weapons, hand-to-hand combat, I don't know. I think, Ethan still might find a way. All right. So this is really interesting here. Here's the number one from Screen Rant. John Wick versus Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, whose number one rule is to not kill. But if he has to fight for his life, and John Wick is someone that's been taking out people in Gotham, and Bruce has to take him down, who do you got?
Are we talking Christian Bale Batman?
That's a good question. No, you know what? Just for pure brutality, we're talking Ben Affleck, 20-year vet, pissed off, mad at the world, mad at Superman, Batman versus John Wick.
I think then what we're gonna ultimately, I think it's going to be. Oh man, I'm trying to liken John Wick to DC villains or to Batman villains, and I think about him in a similar vein, not in the mental way, but I think about the Joker in a way, and like some of the more ruthless killers that we've seen, like with Bane and all that. I think that John Wick could combine all of that together, but I think Batman always finds a way somehow. And especially if we were talking, I think Christian Bale Batman and like the Dark Knight series, he definitely, it's him. It's no one else really with him until, the third movie gets a little wonky with Catwoman in there and Robin. But I don't know. I would probably say Batman in this one. Batman's not my favorite superhero, but I do think that in this case he would have the upper hand.
Awesome. No, I think and kind of you talking about the comparison game. We obviously talked about Deadshot earlier. It might have some reminiscence of a Deadshot character with him being so precise and a marksman. Or even much so like a Deathstroke for a villain. But yeah, if you're giving Batman all his tools at his disposal, and if we're in a Batman universe where he's the world's greatest detective, I think he would figure it out to take out John Wick. But I think that would be a really interesting battle.
He's got the resources too.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure. And just a couple little extra wild cards. I was just looking online and seeing some other people to kind of maybe throw in the mix. Let me bring them up on the screen here. This would be a fun one. John Wick versus one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino characters. John Wick versus The Bride.
Oh man, I don't know if that movie would ever end. That's a good one. I might go The Bride on that one.
Yeah, man. I mean, that I still one of my favorite scenes as far as action is Kill Bill 1 with her and the gang that she took out single handedly.
I need to rewatch those movies. It's been a few years, but oh my, Uma Thurman, who would have thought?
Yeah, awesome.
Poison Ivy.
Right. Yeah, I think I gotta go with The Bride with on that one too. She's just such a fantastic character. I'm trying to look. Is there any other characters? I'm just looking online. I think this might be the big one here. Let me try to pull it up and see who you got winning this battle. And again, guys, let me know in the chat who you guys have winning some of those battles that we just pointed out, as Ruby Rose is being taken out by John Wick with that's two kills now for just stabbing a person, looking at them in the eyes, looking at their soul just slip away. But last one here in the battle royale, who wins to the death? Final person walking out of the ballroom. This will be an interesting one here, and I'm going to bring it up right around now. Here we go. Neo versus John Wick.
Of course. What are your thoughts on that one?
It depends on, if we're in the Matrix universe, Neo can't, he's dodging bullets left and right. So I don't think John Wick's going to be able to shoot him. And then when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, if you gave Neo the pre-loaded, information he needs to know how to take out John Wick, then I think it's a done deal. He can just, I know Kung Fu. I mean, he'll just plug it in and he's done to go. So if he's pre-Neo, not knowing he's Neo, he's maybe in the John Wick universe, then I think John Wick might have a chance to pull out the win. But if we're talking, if he's in the Matrix universe, I don't think it's a fair game.
It's got to be Neo. Regardless, I think that Neo just will. It comes down to resources. It comes down to knowledge. It comes down to skill. And I think you can't argue with what that man's been able to do.
Definitely. I mean, he's the one. He's the one. So now that was fun, man. I appreciate you participating in that, because like I said, John Wick is one of those characters that it brings up the conversation. He's in that that rush him out more as far as badass characters who can just face anything, look at the face in the death, look at his enemies and take them out. So no, that was a fun, man. I appreciate you participating in that there.
For sure.
Yeah, some people mentioned Ethan Hunt for the win. Yeah, I think Ethan will pull it out here. So we're wrapping.
Those movies are just going to keep going.
Oh yeah, man. And it's you talk about synergy between the John Wick franchise and just kind of stumbling upon these 3 and 4, but after, some would argue after the second one, which I think is the weakest in the franchise in the Mission Impossible universe, but Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, man, they got some vibes, some really good synergy going on with, even if Christopher's not directing the movie, he's writing the movie. They got a really good relationship, kind of reminiscent of a Martin Scorsese and a Robert De Niro. They just have this synergy about them.
Hey, and when you find that synergy, you stick with it.
You stick with it, right? Yeah.
And I think that's what they're doing. They're, some will say they're milking it, but they're just doing what works.
Yeah. I even read, it was some rumors. We were talking about superhero movies a little bit in this conversation, but Tom Cruise, was initially supposed to be maybe Iron Man at one point, but there was rumors that he was going to maybe be a Green Lantern, and having Christopher McQuarrie brought into the mix, that would be crazy. But yeah, no, I just love their energy, and I cannot wait for this Mission Impossible 7 and Mission Impossible 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, it's going to be neat to see kind of where they take it. My only hope, we were talking a little bit earlier about the series knowing when to end, whether that's TV or movies. And there's been the jokes about like Fast and the Furious going to space and stuff like that, right?
Right.
But I just hope that we don't get to a more ridiculous point with Mission Impossible.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And they, they found ways to kind of even, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, from what I read for this 7 and 8, that they're going to start to do even more callbacks to the original ones and bringing some of those characters into the mix. And I believe, was it Nicholas Hoult might be rumored as the character to be the main villain in the next two films. It might be related to Henry Cavill's character, so it'll be really really cool to see what they do with that film and the cast they put together so far. And again, I know Tom Cruise is he always wants to one up himself, so it'll be really interesting. I'm really excited to see what they do.
See what injury he takes on this time,
right? And especially filming back to back. Well, I don't know if what the production is looking like now with everything going on, but to have those films and him, shooting those, that's got to be brutal. So now wrapping up this film, and this kind of sets the stage for what's to come for John Wick. He took out one of the head bosses in the Continental. He's a man with his own conventions and his own rules, but he broke the main rule, which is you don't draw blood in the Continental. He broke that rule.
Yeah, all hell's about to break loose in John Wick 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I would really love to see, again, going back to just the franchise of this John Wick franchise with the ballerina and the Continental, and just see if they can still be creative with this next film, but also just to see what they're doing with this franchise. It'll be really interesting to see in the coming years.
Yeah, I think I don't want to keep comparing it to the Bourne series, but I think that there is an easy comparison to make there with Matt Damon's character and Jeremy Renner's character. You have other assassins that you can explore.
Yeah.
There's other opportunities there. I think Bourne would have been better to do that early on.
Yeah.
Instead, it was a decade later, or if not more, that they finally were like, all right, well, we have this other guy now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I would like to see what the Continental does to open that up. I also would love to see the Continental cross paths with the movies a little bit and make sure that the characters are kind of weaving in and out of them.
Right, which I think maybe again they tugged on that storyline with the ballerina and all that stuff, and even Halle Berry might be able to open up a door for another spinoff maybe, and I don't want to say recasting a younger person, but maybe even exploring her. So it'll be, I think, like you said, it depends on what John Wick 4 does financially, which I think will be success. But I think they'll probably be a standout character that's going to branch off and really open the door to these other universe or these other spinoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and this is him giving him a little bit of a head start because he knows what's ahead of him here.
I think he's one of my favorite characters. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Goodbye.
I really hope they bring him back for the Continental, even if he's not like a regular on the show, but definitely having a cameo or popping up every now and then. That would be great.
Well, and I could even see them doing something where he comes in near the end of the first season or something, takes over.
Yeah.
Depending on how they go. But I mean, the point being that there's Continentals around, all around the world.
Right.
I think that opens it up for that. Actually would be kind of cool with the cameos that they could pull. Who's in charge of what?
Who's in charge of that particular Continental, and they had the different assassins who come around and what cameos come from that. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Ian McShane just casually sitting here on a fountain.
Mm-hmm. I love this moment too. Everyone just kind of stops when they.
Yeah, I just will say it again. I think John Wick 2 is all around a great movie. I think they do a great job with the development of the story, the characters. You have time to breathe, and you don't have that in John Wick 3 by any means.
No, not at all. Not at all. And even with the quieter moments, it's like 4 or 5 minutes tops, and then you're back to the action with that film.
I'm gonna have to rewatch John Wick 3 though.
Oh man, I watched it a couple about 4 or 5 months ago. Man, it's action. It is action to the finest degree. Like you said, not a lot of quieter character moments, but I think what they want to do, and this might be something, going back to them being stunt coordinators, that the action, there's a story being told within action, in regards to, getting to the next part of the story, to the next scene. It kind of weaved into the story versus, just a traditional conversation with the character. So yeah, it's action packed, man. I really enjoy that film. Excommunicado. Yeah, Keanu, like I said, from all the stories you hear about him, man, he's such a great. I'm glad that he's able to get back into the forefront, and people are happy to see him in films and get excited about hearing his name and rumors of different franchises. I'm happy for him.
I would like to see him come into, come into maybe like a Guardians of the Galaxy or something. I feel like that would be good for him.
That would be wild. Yeah, him and James Gunn.
Yeah, that would be great. But I don't know. He's popping up in the SpongeBob movie too, right? So
yeah,
definitely all over the place right now.
Yeah, he is. That's great because I think for a while too, going back to Marvel, I think he was rumored to have had conversations to be even in the Eternals, which still might be the case. Who knows? But yeah, I think everyone right now is biting at the chops to get Keanu in their movies.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anytime that you see an actor really step up and start doing well, everyone starts saying like, "Oh, he would be great in Marvel," or "She would be great in Marvel."
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that means that everyone should be in Marvel.
Right. No, definitely. No, I agree. And Brandon, John Wick 2 is also the closest live action film that captures that anime film. The Lincoln Center subway fight with Cameron was a great example. Yeah. They, again, we talked about it a couple of times when you have these stunt coordinators getting behind the camera. They, the story might be, not the at times, but they know what they're doing. They tell their stories within the action. I think that Chad Stahelski did a good job in this.
I agree. And, after rewatching this tonight, I'm ready to say, I think that the Common fight is one of the top 5 fights for me in any movie. I just think it's incredible.
Yeah. No, I agree. That and I think we were talking about Jason Bourne earlier. Mm-hmm. That scene in Bourne, not Ultimatum. What's the second one? Bourne. What's the second one? What's the name? What's the subtitle? Supremacy. Yeah, is that the one with the bathrooms fight?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that was so brutal.
Is that one? Yeah, is that Ultimatum? Maybe that's the second one. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's just so well coordinated, and I love that moment. But yeah, I definitely agree with you with this film. John Wick and Common is definitely one of those top fights that you talk about for a while, for sure. Even the mom is an assassin, the homeless man's an assassin, the pigeons are assassins.
The baby in that carriage.
Yeah, it's like this world is crazy. Who isn't an assassin?
Wow.
Yeah, the running, Keanu running. He definitely, we were talking about Ethan Hunt earlier. He's definitely no Tom Cruise when it comes to running. He hasn't beat there.
He's not jumping out of any planes or anything.
No. He definitely is a little stiff there.
It is a wild movie. Wow.
Mm.
Everyone has a cell phone, apparently.
Right.
And that is one thing I like that 3 does as well, is it really does pick up like
right up. Yep. There it is. Directed by Chad Stahelski. So fun movie, man. Like you said, it's it definitely has the most kind of more character-based moments, quieter moments. It, as we kind of pointed out, it takes about, other than the opening scene, it takes about 40 minutes before the action picks up again. But again, it kind of builds the world and builds the characters, and it's a fun movie, man. And that just kind of brings me, I think we already kind of talked about it, but just to kind of get your actual rankings, from 1, 2, and 3, I'll pull it up here. Definitely take the stage here. Joan, let me know, what is your rankings in regards to these 3 films we've gotten so far?
Yeah, I am definitely a John Wick 2 fan. Making sure I didn't freeze here. And let me know when you have me again.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, we're good, man.
So I think John Wick 2 is definitely my favorite. I really like what they did. They were able to capitalize on the story building in the first. Take something that I think wasn't expected to be such a success and turn it into even more of a success, clearly, because it's reaching into a 3rd and now a 4th. Mm-hmm. I follow that up with the first, because the first just did a great job of really introducing us to the character in this world. And the 3rd, I struggle with. I mean, I want to see it again. It's a good movie. It definitely advances the plot. But I couldn't shake the feeling that, if you think about Marvel, this is probably a really improper comparison, but you think about Marvel with the way that they plan out what they're doing in every movie. And they know where they're going. I don't think that John Wick and the writers of John Wick knew where they were going all along. I think that there's pieces that they're saying, oh, you know what? We should do this. We should add this in. And that's kind of what we got a lot of in the third. And I'm hoping that it seems a little more authentic and real moving forward.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you when it comes to that kind of on the fly. They definitely didn't have the writer's room probably all assembled and planned out this next 10 years of Keanu Reeves and in this franchise. But I think, they probably, like I said, if they were smart men, and creators behind this, they probably said, hey, if it is successful, we can tug more into this Continental. They kind of go off of what was the thing that people liked about the first John Wick? Oh, the Continental. Let's kind of build on that more and maybe even leave something to be looked out for and seeked for in the third one and in the fourth one. And I think with this whole, COVID-19, they have more time to write, for and maybe add some more of these big action set pieces, but also add some more character moments, some more quieter moments, and kind of, build off of that. But no, I love your list. So 2, 1, and 3 is your ranking. And for me personally, I kind of go back and forth with 2 and 3, but I'm again, just seeing 2, I really love it. But 3 is it just takes it to the next level in regards to the action is just so over the top in the best way possible, in my opinion. So for me, especially that first 10 minutes of the movie is just ridiculous. For me, I say 3, 2, and 1, and it's not just like 1 is the worst of them all. They're all fairly close to each other, but in regards to just the action sequences, the storytelling elements, I think for me it's 3, 2, 1, which is rare that a franchise, at least for me, that the last one in the franchise is the best one. But I think this franchise has gotten more expanded. The world, the action's gotten bigger. We've gotten more fascinating characters, and I'm really, really looking forward to the next John Wick, which is coming out in 2022. So you already kind of touched on, I know, we'll say final thoughts of John Wick 2. You kind of hit the nail on the coffin in regards to what you love about it and everything that it brought to the table. And I definitely agree with you there. So this was fun, man. I love watching these movies. I put John Wick, in the same boat in regards to the Raid and still an action movie like a Mad Max Fury Road. It's just these action movies in the last 10 or 15 years or so have really kind of upped their ante in regards to the special effects and in regards to some of these great actors getting involved in the mix. And it's, it's fun times for fans like us that love action movies.
It's totally true. And I do think that there's going to be a lot more to be said for, the stunt coordinators taking a step behind the camera more, or the stunt men taking, step behind the camera, because I think that really elevates the action that we're seeing. So I'm hoping to continue to see that trend, because I think that really brings something new. Outside of the Bourne series back then and before Mission Impossible really ramped up in the more recent offerings, I think we weren't getting much of that, but now we definitely are.
Yeah, totally agree with you, man. Totally agree with you. So there you have it, guys. This was the live watch along for John Wick Chapter 2 that you guys voted for to watch next. And just a quick plug as far as the coming weeks, I got a couple other watch-alongs planned for some horror films celebrating their 40th anniversary. Friday the 13th, The Shining, and then the 5-year anniversary is coming up for Mad Max. So those are some watch-alongs I got scheduled with some guests there. But I can't thank you enough, Joe, for coming on, man, having some fun discussions and the whole who would win battle, and obviously getting your great thoughts on John Wick 2, man. I really appreciate you having coming on tonight and spending time with me. And I hope, again, guys, you guys follow him, subscribe to him, and I'm going to let you kind of tell everyone where they can find you, Joe, what's next on your slate, whether it be your YouTube, your Instagram, your .com. Where can the people find you, and what can they expect from you next, my friend?
Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this. It's always a lot of fun to chat through some of the movies that we all enjoy, and even the ones that we don't. So as far as where you can find me, the main page is Guy at the Movies on Instagram. Twitter is Guy at the Movies 1. Someone shockingly had Guy at the Movies. But I also can be found on YouTube, Guy at the Movies, trying to ramp that up a little bit. That's kind of been my latest project. And if all of that gets kind of lost and you don't remember it, just go to guyatthemovies.com, where you can find links. You can find an index of all the reviews that have been done. and a lot more fun stuff there. But in the coming weeks, the main thing that I'll kind of promote out there is Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We do quarantine conversations, half hour, just kind of short little interview. What got you started in what you're doing here? What would you like to see in the future? What movies are you excited for? What's coming down the pipe for you? So they've been fun half-hour chats. Elliot was gracious enough to join us. I think last week it was. And there's some really great guests that are coming down the road. So we're planned out through May, which is kind of wild. And hopefully I don't have to go back into the office anytime soon, because that will really kind of ruin the plans with quarantine conversations. We'll have to change the name of it down the road, but keep an eye out there. A lot of fun stuff, and hope to collaborate with Elliot a little bit more in the future as well.
Definitely, man. Again, I thank you for joining me tonight, my friend. And yeah, like he said, guys, definitely check out his content. He has a lot of great content. He has a new series on his Instagram that I'm really excited for. I'm looking forward to a lot of the interviews that he's going to have. And then, of course, his YouTube channel is great, guys. He has a lot of great opinions on movies and, different things of that nature. So definitely check him out, support his content, because he has a lot of great stuff out there. Before we head out, a few little comments before we go. Brandon says, looking forward. Thanks for the fun night. See you Friday 13th. Yeah, Brandon, we're excited for, I'm a big horror fan, so I'm excited for that one. And awesome watch along. Thanks, guys. No, thank you, Robert, Brandon, Connor, Unyolo, Morgan, everyone that stopped by tonight, that dropped a comment, dropped a share, a thumbs up. We thank you guys, because we're in a crazy time, and it's always good to kind of meet up with us people in the community that love these movies and watch these movies. So again, Joe, I thank you for coming on, my friend. Again, everyone, make sure you subscribe to him, follow him, show him some support. Again, subscribe to my channel. Keep an eye out for some content I got coming up pretty soon. I got a review for a Netflix film. There's a couple other Netflix films I watched recently, Defending Jacob episode 4. So check out all that content that I dropped today. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you guys for tuning in.